What a bummer to figure that out. What a bummer. Because I am interested, like, I was actually thinking about this
Haunted
on the
Taco
road
12
today.
said not one you hear about often.
I was thinking about on the road today because Doug DeMuro, who I like Doug DeMuro a lot. He went viral for his take on Chinese EVs. This is a 2024 Derek Automotive Avani, and it is a scam.
I'm astonished. They shouldn't have sent them to us. Now we know how good they are. Now we're like, crap, we got to catch up. If we let capitalism sort this out, China wins this game. All these automakers are pulling back on these EVs. If that's the way we want to go, then that's the way we want to go. But the Chinese EVs, I've driven them. They're way ahead. They're way ahead and they're way cheaper. And China's going to walk around and start selling these cars in the other markets and start gobbling up market share in all those places too. Pretty soon our auto industry is going to be Ford selling cars to Americans. When we eventually adopt it, when we have to, will China have already succeeded? Do you know what I'm saying?
And they will have charging stations and better technology.
Right.
And yes, 100%.
And that's the fear. That's the fear with walking this back. That's the fear with the government walking it back. And that's why we can't just necessarily just let capitalism sort it out when we have the conversation. Because capitalism may sort it out in a way that is not favorable for us. And our government has this isn't pure capitalism. Our government has the ability to kind of put their finger on the scales of what actually succeeds.
This is not where I thought this conversation would go.
I'm surprised to hear myself saying this too, but I've been thinking about this more and more over the last few weeks. And when you hear about
Ford CEO a few months ago had an interview where he said that he drove the Xiaomi SU7.
He's been driving it around.
And it's like, this is better than what we're building.
Yeah. That's interesting. I drive these Chinese cars. I'm astonished.
So yeah, I actually watched at least half of this episode of this podcast, and I was thinking about it. I was like, the American automotive industry sector, it feels stagnant, it feels uninspired and uninteresting and overly expensive. For all of those things to describe it, overly expensive is like the key, because who wants to spend at the very least 28 grand on an uninspired car that feels dated, right? Like your monthly payment is going to be close to your rent on that thing. And I was really thinking about, like, we're keeping a lot of Chinese automotives out of America, right? Because they would just do too well. They're new. According to Doug, and even according to the CEO of Ford, they're better. They're just better cars, and they're cheaper, which would be great for us as consumers, because then we would just buy them. We wouldn't buy the, $30,000, Ford starter or whatever. We would get this. And
Haunted Taco 12 said maybe Derek is onto something.
Well, those guys are just
Haunted Taco
scamming.
12 said Kappa.
Those guys are just scamming. But, like, if they were able to legitimately release this, then that would be an injection of excitement directly into an industry that needs competition. Like, there's not really any... There used to be a time, and this is true, I guess, across the whole of American capitalism. There used to be a time when companies would, like, viciously compete with one another. Like, car makers used to be very aggressive going after their competition. Like, trying to delegitimize their competition to the public. And you don't see that anymore. Like, there was so much blood in the water, and there still is, for Tesla. Like, their stocks are plummeting. The brand image is a disaster.
Street
like,
Corner Becky said now they just buy each other as conglomerates.
Anybody in the business of EVs should be trashing the living fuck out of Teslas right now. And, like, even before Elon Musk somehow became the emperor of America, even before that, when he was just some shitty dude who owned Twitter, they still should have been trashing the hell out of you. Like, if I was the CEO of GM or Ford or whatever, and we had a line of electric vehicles that we were trying to sell, I would mandate that some massive percentage of our media buys, our TV ads, our internet ads, radio ads, or whatever, I would mandate that some significant percentage of those ad buys would be negatively trashing Tesla. Like talking about the brand image, and do you want to be associated with what that guy is and what he represents? Or do you want your car to reflect your values or whatever? I would be trashing how Teslas explode into fireballs pretty fucking frequently. I'd be trashing all the broken promises that Tesla's made. There's still no Roadster, even though they promised that like over a decade ago. There's so much blood in the water if you really wanted to be a competitive company that you can just take a big chunk right out of Tesla's ass and move it on their territory, especially right now. But none of them do that. There is no competition. There is no competitive spirit in America right now because they've gotten used to the idea of capitalism being, we're just going to absorb our competition and then we're going to collaborate with them. Like, it's all collusion. It's all just collusion. Sometimes illegally done, but mostly legal collusion, price leadership and shit like that. Where one company sets a price and then instead of the competitor undercutting that price, they just set their price along with it because it's only like 5 or 6 competitors. So, what are you going to do? You're going to control some chunk of the market, right? And eventually, sometimes, somebody falls out from the bottom like Nissan. They have to be purchased. And that's a bummer. I don't want Nissan to die. But being absorbed by Honda is only going to make the situation worse. So I want BYDs and other Chinese manufacturers to flood the American markets with their vehicles because it would force all of these stagnant, dinosaur-ass, unimaginative, uninspired, uncompetitive U.S. companies to actually start competing again and start innovating and start being, hungry to satisfy your customers. Like they don't operate to like to satisfy customers anymore. Like it's the same as with when we were talking about airline industries. You're just gonna provide the bare bottom service. You're gonna charge as much as you can get away for it with, and your customers don't have a choice. Or whatever choices they have are extremely limited because your competitors are doing the same thing that you're doing. So even if you lose customers, you don't have to change anything because your competitors are doing the same thing that you're doing anyways. So, and eventually they're gonna lose customers too. Your competitors customers are gonna get frustrated that they're doing the same thing, and they're gonna come over to you. So it's an even swap while you both continue to race to the very bottom line, race to the bottom with respects to how you treat your customers and how you treat your employees, and the quality of your product and the lack of innovation. And instead of reinvesting your profits into R&D, you reinvest your profits into stock buybacks, which is market manipulation. It should be illegal. That's just why we're doomed. We're doomed. We're doomed. We're definitely going to be overtaken by China if we haven't already been, and we just don't know about it yet.
Absolutely.
Haunted Taco 12
China is currently
Samuel
number 1 in
Suki.
trade, number 1 in steel production, number 1 in shipbuilding, and number 1 in high-speed rail. Oh, and on top of that, they're leading in one rail, shipbuilding, and number 1.
Turkey has less high-speed rail than we do? Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I expected America to be at the bottom of the list. God damn, look at that. That's fucking crazy. And I think that they've already they're trying to. They're trying to cancel the high-speed rail in California. I don't know what's going to happen with the one they're building here in Texas, but I don't have a whole lot of hope that the future is not bright for high-speed rail in America. We might end up destroying what we have here, falling below Turkey. Who knows?
1 in high-speed rail. Oh, and on top of that, they're leading in robotics and even have fully automated factories. What the f? Also, they're now the number 1 car export.
China car exports continue to soar as EV shares grow. Yeah, so they're already, even though America has locked these cars out of our market, like that's not stopping China. They're exporting them literally everywhere else but America. So like these brands are becoming synonymous with EVs everywhere but the US.
And that wasn't the case 5 years ago. And nowadays, if you visit most developing countries, odds are you'll be seeing Chinese cars on those streets. Oh, but everything China makes is so cheap. Wrong. Like, just look at this drone show. Pretty much all drones are made in China too. They have the vast majority of rare earth metals, and they're the leading producer of 33 critical elements. China also leads in nuclear power, and they're planning 150 new reactors in the next 15 years. And surprisingly, only 18% of China's exports go to the US. And all of that has me asking just one question. Is China up next?
Oh boy. Anyway, so I've been thinking about a lot of that stuff today.